Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby.
Who is that?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
The new year has begun. We're supposed to be getting our health habits underway. Kids are back at school. We're supposed to be back into the routine. And for some reason, I don't know about you, but I just find it difficult. There's always something that pops up. There's always something that stops me from getting enough sleep or from eating right or from moving my body and doing all the things that on New Year's Day I swore I was going to do. This is a conversation for any parent who is struggling to find the time, the motivation, or just the know-how to get health back on track. And I figured since most New Year's resolutions have finished or failed by around about mid to late January, first or second week of February is about the right time to have a conversation with Dr. Amantha Imber about her brand new book, The Health Habit. I think you are going to love this. It's a 5-star book from my perspective. Amantha has been a guest on the podcast a couple of times, but I want to tell you a bit about her if you're not familiar with Dr. Amantha Imber, an organizational psychologist and founder of behavioral science consultancy Inventium. She hosts the top-ranking podcast How I Work, which has had over 5 million downloads. Amantha is also the co-creator of the Australian Financial Review's Most Innovative Companies list and the AFR Boss Best Places to Work list. Amantha has helped companies like Google, Apple, Disney, Lego, Atlassian, Commonwealth Bank, and many others to reinvent the way that they approach their work. Plus, in 2019, Amantha was named as one of the Australian Financial Review's 100 Women of Influence. In 2021, she won the Thinkers 50 Innovation Award, which recognises the thinker who has contributed the most to the understanding of innovation globally over the last 2 years. Amantha was also the first Australian to win this award. She's written and shown up in the Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Fast Company, and is the author of 3 internationally best-selling books, including one of my favourites, Timewise, plus the Innovation Formula and the Creativity Formula. It's a long intro, but it's worth it. Amantha, I'm honoured that you would join us on the Happy Families podcast to help parents to be healthier. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's so good to be back, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's talk about the book. Like I said, a 5-star read from my perspective. I want to talk all about it because I got so much out of it, read every page, read every word, but I think it's better if you do. My first question, though, why is an organizational psychologist writing a health book?
Oh, it's a great question. So how I came up with the idea for the book probably best explains that. So my work is in behavior change as an organizational psychologist and mostly focusing on how we behave at work. And in my sort of spare time, I am really obsessed with my health, more from a selfish point of view, because I've had all sorts of, health challenges that I think a lot of people can relate to. I've had chronic insomnia, throughout my 20s and 30s. I had a crazy bad sugar addiction. I was the kid that got picked last for every sports team at school years and beyond. And these are things that I've been able to sort of psychology my way through my understanding of behavior change. And so the idea for the book came about thinking, there are all these books on healthy behavior and the latest health fad or diet fad. And, every month there's a whole new round released and people go out and buy them. But presumably if they actually worked, then there wouldn't be a market for them anymore because everyone would be fixed, so to speak. And in the meanwhile, there's this other section of the bookstore that's all around habit change and improvement and how to change your behavior. And I thought to myself one morning, why have these two genres never met and produced a book baby? And that's what I wanted to do with The Health Habit, to go, what are the most impactful things that as humans we can do to improve how we sleep, move, and eat? And then how can I help readers diagnose what's the biggest psychological barrier getting in the way to making a change stick? And I help people diagnose themselves in the book and give them behavior change strategies that are just for them.
So you've touched on a nerve with the sugar addiction. That's my kryptonite. I want to talk to you more about that shortly, because this podcast, I get to talk to great people, and it would be crazy for me not to ask for a bit of advice around that. But let's go to the actual book itself. So like you said, part 1 and part 2. Part 1, you've unpacked 3 health sections. You talk about sleep, you talk about movement, and then the third section is nutrition or diet. And then the second half of the book is about the behavior change stuff. What I loved about the opening section, sleep habits, movement, and nutrition, is that the stuff you talked about is not the sort of thing that we're used to hearing. Like, you really changed the conversation and made it feel like health is achievable for anybody. Walk me through your highlights of each of those 3 sections, just so that people can get a sense of what they will hear that's probably different to what they're used to hearing when it comes to health, nutrition, sleep.
Yeah. And look, what I wanted to do with the health habit part of the book is not just tell people what they've already heard a million times. Like, obviously, don't use your mobile phone in bed. I think we all know that. Eat more vegetables. Sure, of course. I wanted to dig into what are the lesser known but highly impactful and science-backed ways that we can improve our health. And so to research for the book, I spoke to a number of different professors and leading health experts from all around the world. So let me give you maybe one tip from each section. So
Great.
We'll start with sleep. A lot of people experience what I think of as Monday morning jet lag.
Oh, I
Because a lot
love
of
this.
people-
I love this because it happened to me recently. You talked about how if you fly to New Zealand, you lose 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is. And that 2 or 3 hour difference, that jet lag, it takes like a week to catch up to that with the flying to New Zealand and then coming back a few days later or a week later. And when you said that's what sleeping in does, it gives you that extra 2 or 3 hours. That's what, my mind just went, poof, like, brilliant. I love that.
I think it's so important for people to think about. Like, I used to be notorious for having a weekend sleep in. I'd get up pretty early for work and, organizing my daughter for school, like from Monday to Friday, maybe, used to get up at, I don't know, like maybe 6 a.m. And then on the weekends, I'd think to myself, well, I can have a bit of a sleep in. I've got no commitments. And, my daughter's at an age, she's 9 now, that she can kind of look after herself in the mornings. And what I didn't realize is that just by sleeping in, even till say 8 a.m. compared to a 6 a.m. start on weekdays, it's like when it gets to Monday morning and I'm back at a 6 a.m. wake up, it's like I've just returned from a trip to New Zealand. And I think like when the time difference is only a couple of hours, you underestimate how big an impact that is going to have on your energy and how your whole day flows. So a really important sleep hack, and it's the first thing that I do talk about in the book, is wake up at the same time every day. Otherwise, probably every Monday morning, you're going to be jet lagged.
So you mentioned a half a dozen different sleep habits that are really useful, really simple to do. The one that I struggle with the most is the 2 S's rule. Bed is only for 2 things. They both start with S. Struggle with that one so much. I want to do everything in bed. I don't just want those 2 things in bed. I want to read my books. I want to scroll my phone.
Justin, I'll admit something, that I actually read in bed. So I used to be really strict with the 2 S's rule until I was able to get my sleep on track. And now I sleep well almost every night. And so this is probably the only health habit in the book that I break. I read a book at night, probably for about half an hour. So does my partner. That's our ritual. And I found just through trial and error that is something that doesn't break my association with what I need to be doing in bed.
It's a scoop. You heard it here first, folks. Amantha Imber. Now, we could talk for ages about everything that you've got in there in terms of movement. I love the post-meal walk. We've started doing that since I read the book. Just love it. Number of steps per day, all that sort of thing. I got so much out of the movement section, and it was not the usual, you've got to exercise for an hour a day sort of stuff. We won't say any more about it now because time's going to get the better of us. But I just want to highlight how innovative and exciting it was to read that. And similarly with the nutrition habits, I loved what you had in the nutrition habits. And I'm pumping up the protein. I'm staying clear of the highly processed foods, giving my gut a breather by narrowing the eating window. And like there's 6 or 7 different nutrition habits there as well. So brilliantly put together and so achievable for any person to work through. Amantha, we need to talk about actually getting it done. This is what the second half of the book is, implementation, and probably the biggest issue, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely the biggest issue. So what you want to do once you've got the health habit, the new behavior that you want to adopt, is you want to work out what is the biggest barrier standing in the way of you changing? Because what we know from research is that information and knowing something doesn't actually change behavior. Sadly, otherwise we'd all be perfect beings for those of us that, devour lots of self-development and health improvement content. But there are 4 main barriers that are standing in the way, and chances are one of them will be a more significant barrier than other ones, and it's about finding out which one so that you can use the right behavior change strategies. So the first barrier that might be standing in the way, or hijacker as I call it, is motivational hijackers. This is where you feel like you have to make a change as opposed to want to make a change. So maybe you've seen your doctor for a checkup and they said, you really need to exercise more, or you need to change your diet for this reason to improve heart health or whatever it might be. And you're like, ugh. And so the motivation's lacking, even though you have to do that change. That's one barrier. The second one is relational. So this is about the people in your life and the social norms that you're around. Like maybe you're on, you've got a goal around, maybe quitting sugar or, eating more plant food or something like that. But the people in your household do anything but. And so the social norms that you're within make it really hard to change behavior. Now, the third barrier is all about environmental barriers or hijackers. So this is the physical environment that we find ourselves in, like where we live or where we work, for example. So, again, let's just say we're trying to improve the way that we eat and, let's say cut back on chocolate. But if we've got lots of chocolatey treats maybe for our kids that are, all over the pantry and within the fridge, our environment is making it very hard to change our behavior. And then finally, there are cognitive barriers. So if you're just feeling like exhausted and tired or burnt out, although it's February, so hopefully you're not at that point yet. I feel like that comes later in the year. It's really hard to make a change when you feel that way.
Amantha, the book is out, The Health Habit, Shape Up, Sleep Better, Feel Amazing, a science-backed plan to transform your health. I wish we could talk about this for so much longer. Hopefully, though, this has provided a bit of inspiration and some guidance for anybody who's really wanting to get those health habits back on track. Appreciate so much the time and effort that you've put into the book and your generosity in chatting with us on the Happy Families podcast. Thank you.
My pleasure.
That is Dr. Amantha Imber, the author of The Health Habit. All the details in our show notes for where you can find the book. I highly recommend it. Really love this one. Well worth spending some time in if you want to improve your life and your health. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you'd like more info about not just improving your health, but improving your family, please join us at happyfamilies.com.au. We are launching The Quest at happyfamilies.com.au. The Quest is our new parenting program. It's a 3-year membership that will help you get your family on track. All the details at happyfamilies.com.au or on our Facebook page, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families.